Okay. What is the medium of the books? Remember Marshall McLuhan from, I think, our last class. We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. So what is the tool of a book? Again, format is print on paper. They're durable and long-lasting. And actually, that's one of the reasons they can be in libraries. And that's another reason that books they're things. You can do things to them. You can throw them in the river. You can bury them in a capsule to be found, 100 years later. Some people have also done other things with books, using them as symbols of things. Pass-along readership is normally talked about in terms of magazines. The fact that, if you subscribe to a magazine that sits around your house, it's likely that someone else in the house will pick it up at some point. That's called pass-along readership. Well, books are the ultimate in pass-along readership. Text, we talked about this. We talked about reading and how special reading text in particular is in terms of how it uses your imagination. So I just want to spend a word on libraries. This is an illustration of what the library at Alexandria in Egypt must have looked like. Scrolls, all kinds of ancient scientific, mathematical, work, medical, the planets, the universe, all kinds of knowledge put in here. But the library at Alexandria, again, burned. I think it was, I have to look it up, the date of it. Do I dare? Yeah, let's do it. I should have remembered this, but I didn't. There's our screencast-o-matic, which I'm using to record this. We had Alexandria fire, so you see I did look that up. 48 BC, or thereabouts, which means 2,152 years ago, or thereabouts. That's when the library burned. Or so it's said. Another library. I mentioned Thomas Jefferson's library. This is recreated in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., which is our national library. They did a special Thomas Jefferson Library exhibition. Okay, so this fellow here on the left's a pretty interesting guy, Andrew Carnegie. Born in Scotland, that's when he lived. He became one of the richest men in America because he got involved in making steel for railroads, for buildings, and he was a billionaire in his day, and he gave away 90% of what he made, and a lot of that giveaway involved building libraries in towns all over the country. The dots are libraries built by Andrew Carnegie's money. Very amazing story. But Carnegie Hall is something else here in New York, the performance space. Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, which is where a lot of the steel was made in those days. Very amazing guy building libraries. What's a better thing to do than building libraries full of books for people to come learn from? This is a picture I took of a library in my neighborhood. Somebody is set up on a street corner actually right across from my local library here in Riverdale, and on the same block as right across the street from the elementary school. Physical characteristics of books. Reading as a thing, as an act. This is a drawing of what Abraham Lincoln might have looked like reading in his cabin by the light of the fire, or in this case it looks like there's some light coming through a window. I doubt whether the window was even made of glass. Might have been some translucent paper-like material, because Abraham Lincoln, the President of the United States, I believe he was the 16th, Grew up in a cabin in the woods, very, very poor. Went maybe a couple of years of school with a schoolhouse. You'd have to walk miles to get to it. Local people would pay someone to come in and be a teacher, and you'd have all ages of kids, from little ones, 5 or 6 years old, up to teenagers, sitting there having the same lessons and using the same primer books, they called them, to learn their letters and their numbers. And Abraham Lincoln got a year or two of that, but he learned to read, and that's what he did after that. He got every book he could get his hands on and read it. He taught himself to practice the law by reading law books. Became President of the United States. Reading. I like that picture. She looks happy to be reading her book. Even though it's a stock Getty image and it's stamped all over, it's still a nice picture. Reading. So we think about the act of reading and engaging the imagination. I think this is a nice picture of a child reading whose imagination is engaged. All right, that's an important picture when we talk about books. Reading systems in the brain. From illustration from Overcoming Dyslexia, because evidently those who are dyslexic have different brain patterns, different things going on in their brains, which is why they have trouble putting letters in order, reading and writing. But the act of reading takes place in certain parts of your brain. Word analysis, word form, articulation, word analysis. Oh, and then the act of reading, I just wanted to bring up Braille again. These are all the different little raised dots that create letters, so that if I want to read via Braille, I can just lightly run my fingertips over the lines and read the letters. Amazing invention. So the act of reading, very amazing. I'm going to stop here, and then we're going to talk about some famous books that have affected our world.